All right, so we need to do a little bit pre-chit chat because apparently people complain that the live stream starts a bit late and then they don't hear me when I say welcome to Rocket Lab Weekly. Yeah, but I think we're on now. So welcome everyone to Rocket Lab Weekly. This is the first episode after the LC3 ribbon cutting when we personally have met. And it was amazing to see you guys. Scotto, he thought he has met with Sir Peter back now. He doesn't need to be on Rocket Lab Weekly anymore. So he's not here this week. But we have Miss Iglesias with us.
Hey.
Thank you for joining. We have Matt Money with us, and we have Dave. How are you guys doing?
Pretty good.
Well, thank you for inviting me to join. I don't know that I could be a substitute for Scott in any way, shape, or form, but thank you for inviting me.
No, we're excited you're here, and apologies last week. We had our technical issues. We really wish
no
you
worries at all, yeah.
could have had you on, but I don't know. I was so tired just running around that I didn't know mentally. Like there was definitely a way to have gotten you on, and I think we figured it out afterwards. But in the moment, we just couldn't figure it out. So
yeah, I think I should have listened to Matt and used his mic, but we were too tired, and I don't know. I was slow in my head, and yeah, it didn't work. But
I was
guys,
surprised that you were able to host an episode at that time. I was exhausted.
yeah, that was the only time to do it together, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. By the way, I guess just for anyone who's not aware, yeah, Miss Iglesias was with us at the event, and she's actually made a few Rocket Lab YouTube videos as well. I think even before I made my first one, you might have had a couple out there. So yeah, check out her channel as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Dave.
Yeah, if you want, you can put your channel in the comments, and then, or maybe I can do it for you, and then people can check it out who are here.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's at Space Lab RKLB on YouTube. Yeah. So thank you for that. Yeah, I started making videos like when I first joined the community shortly after the DSPAC. And it was mostly for awareness. I found that a lot of our retail community members had little to no information on Rocket Lab, and their PR wasn't really up and really running full stop yet at the time. So I thought it would be helpful for investors to see that sort of content. But it is incredibly time consuming, and I give you guys a lot of credit for being able to pull this off every single week. But thank you for that.
Thank you. Okay, cool. So it's been 1 week. Let me share my screen. 1 second. So it's been a week since the official LC3 opening, and sometimes I still wake up and think that I hallucinated and we were not really there. So how do you guys feel about the event now that it's been a week and we all could sleep on it a little bit?
I mean, it was just great, right? Didn't really know what to expect going into it. Obviously, I would have loved to have some time to sit down with Peter, Adam, Frank or Sean. We did get some chatting in there, but it wasn't, like, definitely, I think we have a lot of questions we could have asked, but it was still amazing to meet those guys in person, see the launch complex and all the work that they've done in the past, 8 months to a year. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. I think it was okay to not be like in full work mode, right? And just enjoy the occasion and enjoy the event, because it was such a huge milestone, and being invited to it was such a privilege that, even when I had the opportunity to speak to Sir Peter back, I really felt like, I'm not going to waste it by asking him like a bunch of technical questions. I really wanted to just be able to express to him, what his success has meant for a lot of us in the community. So, I did share that video last week. If you haven't seen it, go ahead and take a look at it. I wasn't even sure if I was going to share it because it was such a personal conversation. And the whole time I'm thinking, this is crazy. I don't even know if my camera's recording, but I really have to say these things. And, I hope that a lot of our community members can take some value away from that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm actually kind of happy that it transpired the way that it did, and I think I might have said this last week, but I didn't know that Dave was recording. So like all my conversation that I was having with Sean and Sean DeMillo, the VP of Neutron Development, and with Sir Peter Beck, when I was having that conversation with him and Dave being there, was all genuine. Like that, I didn't know that was being recorded. So the fact, like, when we were walking up to actually go up to the top of the actual pad itself, that's when, you know, I was chatting with Dave. He's like, I can't believe I got that on camera. I was like, oh my God, I didn't even know. Right. So really cool to watch that back, because it was like I was smiling the whole time, like rewatching that back, Dave. So I'm really glad you got that on camera, and because it was such a genuine moment. And I wasn't scripting it, right? Like I wasn't like, oh, I need to ask these questions. I was like, I just felt it in that moment. And, you know, because I didn't know it was on camera, like I didn't feel a certain way. It was just like, you know, how would I ask these questions just like one-on-one, like in the wild? And so it was fortunate that I was able to be that fanboy. You know, I didn't feel like I needed to perform, you know, for YouTube. And it was nice. Like I was there as a fan, as somebody that was giddy to just be there. And multiple times I got emotional, and I'm getting emotional just thinking about it, just how awesome it was to be there. And it's truly monumental. I really don't think that people are giving credit to what is happening in Virginia. Like, you know, you see it on the screen here with Governor Youngkin, you see it on screen with, you know, and some people have been like kind of mixed about the whole political aspect of this. But at the same time, it's like you need political buy-in for certain things like this to really take hold. And with this, hopefully over the next couple of years, like you have the green light to potentially expand this, and really Rocket Lab is going to be that pivot point to potentially really build out that potential infrastructure in Virginia. And if that's the case, that means that the government's willing to provide support. And if the government's willing to provide support, then that just means then Rocket Lab has the full green light. And if Rocket Lab has the green light, then that means we can get things done a lot faster. And hopefully, you know, we don't have that red tape. And as we know, in some of these environments, whether it's in the energy industry or the space industry or any regulatory industry that's impacted by regulatory, you know, this red tape can sometimes add years to what you're doing. And so playing ball with this is really the thing that I kind of got. And I'm really excited to see that everybody is in alignment. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I really hope I get to go back to Virginia and watch it grow.
Yeah, I just mentioning the regulatory side. I was having we were going to Wallops. I was just remembering the AFTS certification process to get Electron flying there in the first place, and that took forever for NASA to certify it. So yeah, these things can make a huge difference.
Yeah, I mean, I had the same as Matt, that it's, you know, like it wasn't clear from Muriel, like if we were going to get an interview with Sir Peter Beck and the guys. And then also like sometimes, you know, when you're in the heat of things and, you know, like you don't fully have time, like you're processing it yourself. So I also, like when I came home, I had like 15, 20 questions I would have loved to ask Sir Peter Beck, but it's like, I didn't know that mingle that we had was going to be the only time. And then it's like hard to think about the questions as you come, but you know, I'm sure we will have interviews again with him, and then whatever we missed, we can pick up. Yeah, and I want to pick up one piece of news and ask.
Hey, it's Lauren.
Yeah, exactly.
He's now famous, I guess.
Exactly,
internet famous.
He's forever part of the Rocket Lab community now. So what was I going to say? So it's so interesting that, you know, you have this interview, and as I said, like we're in the heat of the moment, and then I'm going through Twitter, and then he's quoting the interview, and it's like, oh yeah, he did say that. Oh yeah, that does mean this. So I just want to show this snippet here. Let me see if there is sound. Was there sound?
Yeah, for a second there was.
Okay.
You know, it's not. because we're such an engineering driven company, like literally we can build anything. It's just a matter of time, right? And so it's we only buy stuff when the make versus buy absolutely makes compelling sense, because there's a lot of risk when you buy something else versus when you develop it internally. Like if you go back 2 years ago, the biggest bottleneck or constraint or pain in the LEO market was the electric propulsion, right? You had Apollo Fusion, which was bought by Astra, not doing well. You had Busick, which is a great little company, but doesn't have the scale and so forth. So, we had been looking around. There's half a dozen other startups, and we could have acquired any one of those. But instead, he said, "Look, I can build this. Just give me X amount of dollars and time, and we will build this. And then we won't have to go through the whole risk of integration and cultural alignment, and all those kind of things." And so, but not every company can do that, right? If you got somebody who's more of a marketing person driving your company, then they're going to opt for kind of more the shiny, bright object, maybe easier thing to do. When you're run by an engineer, you'll do the tough stuff because that's what's most satisfying in a lot of ways, right? So I think we have more tools than most other companies to do really well thought through discipline, make versus buy. So a lot of acquisitions. I mean, our pipeline is more full now than it's ever been. But what comes through the end of that?
You just started a lot of rumors. So based on this, it sounds like electric propulsion is coming to the in-house manufacturing of Rocket Lab, and they assessed it that it was much easier to do it in-house than to acquire a different company to do. I wanted to check your guys' viewpoint on this and what you thought this means for Rocket Lab.
It's something we've kind of known for a while from seeing job postings for people to come and work on it, but it's nice to get the official confirmation. And you've got to think they're fairly far along in that effort if Adam's willing to talk about it publicly, knowing he's on camera and stuff like that. So good to see. I mean, it's another important piece of the satellites that they're bringing in-house, and this one is not costing a ton of cash to buy a separate company.
Yeah, I just think it's interesting. I've actually been thinking about this. I mean, I had a post yesterday that talks about one of the previous acquisitions, Solero, which helped created some of the solar panels that went on the James Webb Telescope, and obviously that was a legacy thing that was done prior to the acquisition from Rocket Lab, but that is the beauty of what Rocket Lab has done. I mean, they're almost like the Thanos, from what I'm looking at, of disparate space companies, right? They're collecting all these great companies that have great legacy, heritage, that have been around for sometimes multiple decades, that just need that additional takeoff point, right? I mean, I'm talking, great companies that have been around for quite some time. Like, they acquired all the Star Tracker stuff from a company in Toronto. They acquired the Solera business. They acquired ASI. I mean, they acquired a lot of these companies that allowed them to really start generating their space systems business. And prior to that, it was really just Electron that they did in-house. And so I'm sure there was other things from a space systems perspective they were starting to generate in-house as well, because they were developing Photon, in-house, I think, way before a lot of this was going on as well. So I'm probably not giving enough credit for what they were developing in-house, but it's just impressive what they're able to do. And I think it's with what they've been able to accomplish, I think it's prudent that they're focusing on not just acquiring, but also cultural fit, because and Adam, for those people that don't know, comes from a company that is phenomenal at acquiring and bolting on. For the people that don't know what Adam's background is, he came from Broadcom, and Broadcom is one of the best in terms of M&A. And so he learned from a series of acquisitions, probably from some of the best people that know M&A in the world. And Broadcom to this day is probably still massively done and has done, I think they're probably top 15, if not in the S&P top 20, based off the fact that they've been able to bolt on acquisition, and so they're replicating what they've done at Broadcom here now in what they're doing at Rocket Lab. And cultural fit is a huge piece of that, because obviously, and he, you know, based on the conversation that I had with Adam as well, like the Geost acquisition, I think that we had that conversation, me, you, Dave, but I also had it with him earlier on one-on-one. It was like when they went into the room to kind of meet the first time between the Geost folks and the Rocket Lab folks, they were all wearing Rocket Lab shirts. You didn't know who was Geost and who was Rocket Lab. And it's like, that's kind of cool to be able to, you know, get into a room within a month of a you know, full acquisition and be like, well, who's who? It's like, but that's important because as you're going forward, mission forward, you know, we're all driving towards one mission, you know, instead of being disparate like the space industry kind of is at the moment, you're all focused on one goal, and that's to hopefully to bring space together and really focus on achieving together. So I know there's a lot of different things and soapbox on there, but just really interesting to kind of hear this. And I think overall, it just goes to show the power of the team that Adam and Sir Peter Beck have, and they're really working together.
Yeah, Miss Iglesias.
Yes, sir.
What do you think about the electric propulsion coming in house? And
I think it was good to hear it spoken out loud, right? Like we had read about it, we had kind of surmised, as Dave said, from looking at the job listings on the Rocket Lab website, but it had never been like actually confirmed or spoken about it, as far as I know. So it was good to hear that. But you know, Rocket Lab does have a history of trying to make sure they handle anything that's going to create the bottlenecks, right? Even if it means in some cases acquiring new companies, and in other cases just figuring out how to do it themselves. So I've always been very appreciative of that approach, and I think it works well for the company.
Awesome. And also in this interview, in the very end, he did say that they are looking at, you know, acquisitions is like a funnel, and they are looking at very small and, you know, very big companies that they shouldn't be looking at, and you don't know what the end result is going to be. And is there any company that you guys think Rocket Lab should be looking at, or is a possible acquisition target for Rocket Lab?
I mean, I'm sure there's a very broad range and there's a lot of stuff out there that I don't know anything about, but for sure they'll be looking at things on the payload side that Adam kind of even alluded to when it comes to communications and antennas. And I don't think they're going to look to acquire Spectrum at any point, but that would be more of a partnership maybe. But yeah, a bit more on the payload side, I think.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I mean, the only one that I found is this tweet that was
okay, you brought this. Yeah, I saw this one.
Yeah. This was retweeted by Modbox. I hope I say his name right. So they are saying it's a company called NSilica that would be a good candidate for Rocket Lab. They have a non-terrestrial 5G network, like that's what they produce. And they have a very good team for ASICs in space, which is apparently really, really hard. ASIC is application-specific integrated circuit, if that means anything to you. And but like Sir Peter Beck did say that they are after good teams. So like if they acquire a company, it's like it makes them more likely to acquire a company if they have like super highly talented individuals. So I've never heard of this company before. I just thought I show it as context, but yeah, I don't know if there's anything else in the rumor mill about possible acquisitions.
One thing I would just mention. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. I was just going to mention I haven't really heard anything concrete. I think there's a lot of speculation on what it could be. I think it'll be an emphasis on whatever their constellation plan is going to be. And I think we all heard Sir Peter Beck say that they don't really have anything yet planned out. But obviously, I think in the background, a lot of discussions are being had on what that service is going to be. But no, nothing in particular that I can think of to focus on.
I was just going to say, you know, when you're thinking about, I think Adam mentioned something about even looking at companies they shouldn't be looking at or something like that. You know, we always, I think, tend to think of Rocket Lab as like a little company because a lot of us got started when they were, you know, like
2 billion market cap or whatever, and now they're actually a big company. And sometimes it like catches me off guard when I realize, wait a second, Rocket Cap's got like a way bigger market cap than like MDA Space or some of these other companies. So the potential could be higher than you think to acquire something big, which is always possible.
That's also what I was thinking about, that it wouldn't be like out of the realm of possibilities that they acquire a company that is their size, like 20-30 billion, because maybe they have an existing constellation, or like the partnership is that beneficial. I don't know if I would happy if that would happen. I'm just saying, he did mention that they're looking at also very big things that they shouldn't be looking at, so I feel that these guys are very opportunistic, and if there is a good opportunity, they will jump on it, and they don't go into with the mindset, that this is what we're acquiring and we pay whatever money. I think it's more like, if we can find a good deal that makes business sense, then we will do it. So who knows what the outcome of this is going to be.
Yeah. I mean, I do think we should keep in mind, they're probably looking at like everything that seems available or seems interesting, but what they end up acquiring out of what they look at is probably like a very small percentage. So
exactly.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to consider. I mean, the current ATM that we have, I think we only have like 110 million left in there, right? So I'm assuming that going after another big acquisition would require another offering. Or what are your thoughts on that?
Adam Spice said in that interview that they always look at also the financeability of the deal. And the way I translated it is that if they need to take a loan, or if they need to do an extra ATM, like they're not close to it, because they can finance it through issuing shares. They can do an ATM offering, and they can take a loan. So yeah, I don't think that it stops them from looking at something that is bigger than 110 million.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But you are right about that offering, not having a ton left. The deal could be more stock, or they might have to raise more.
Cool. So now I want to have a look at a tweet by a very unknown guy that I thought was very good. I actually had a quite good conversation with this guy during our trip, and he gave me a very good viewpoint, because I think it's like I have this weakness, that exactly as Dave said, when I came into Rocket Lab, it was a $2 billion company, and then I made my valuation and how everything looks, and then I'm having a hard time adjusting like how big Rocket Lab grew, and Matt really helped me out, but I will take that at a later point. So this is the tweet. Ready for the next level? Neutron's revenue per launch will be much greater than 55 million. In fact, a single Neutron launch could easily surpass 100 million or more in revenue for Rocket Lab. I'll explain. A single satellite could bring in 500,000 to 1 million in annual revenue for over a lifespan of 5 to 7 years. That's 2.5 to 7 million per satellite in revenue over its life. I think that could be conservative, but we will start there. Factor that by 15-20 satellites per launch, coupled with an ASP for Neutron starting at 55 million, and that's 95 to 190 million if launched for a customer. Now, do that math using the 25 million the SDA is paying per satellite for the Tranche 2 beta layer. And now that's not recurring, but Rocket Lab could easily launch 9 at once at the precise orbit needed. That payload and launch, that's 300 million. Sending a group of 4 to the ISS, expect to pay an extra 120 to 200 million for the extra hurdles like training, safety, testing, ground control. Starting to get the picture? Neutron isn't the end, it's the beginning. Rocket Lab to zero. So I thought that this was like very interesting. Also, the timing of the post, because it was I felt that almost everybody left the LC3. Okay, not almost everybody. Everybody that I spoke to wanted to buy more Rocket Lab after the LC3, opening. You guys can tell me if I read the room wrong. And you know, the company has grown a lot, so it's like we have to evaluate, like, okay, where can we go from here? And I think that, like, because we are from when Rocket Lab was at 2 billion, you know, we were just thinking, oh, we get to Neutron, and then that's sort of like, then we arrive at, you know, heaven. But it's true, like, Neutron is really just the beginning, and it really opens the door to much larger you know, income opportunities, and frankly a lot more opportunities for Rocket Lab. So I'm curious, let's speak to the author of this tweet. So Matt, could you elaborate a little bit more on what you see with the Neutron coming online and launching?
Yeah, I mean, the tweet kind of highlighted a pretty good chunk of that, but I think the gist of it pretty much is I think a lot of people are focusing specifically on the average sales price of 55 million, and I don't think they truly understand the full nature of Rocket Lab being truly end to end, and being able to not only just be able to get the 55 million from the initial sales price, but be able to build a $28 million satellite per satellite for the SDA. Keep in mind a $515 million contract for 17, 18 satellites, but that's not even including the launching of those satellites. So what if they were to build them and launch them, right? And that contract is yet to be distributed out, right? And the thought process is they would launch those 18 satellites of that $550 million contract in 2 different tranches itself. And so how much is that launch going to be worth, right? And the complex nature of distributing those, is that going to be worth 55 million, or is that going to be worth more than that? And just a lot of other items as well, right? I think if you utilize Starlink as a kind of an idea as to how much you can make on an annual basis, I think right now Starlink is making anywhere between $1.5 to $2.5 million per satellite. And that's kind of an approximation, and it's growing, right? And so my thought process is if you kind of take the initial thought process around what Sir Peter Beck, based off a recent discussion that he'd had with let's say Maddie, the conversation he had with Maddie, and basically stated that their thought process in the near future is about 24 launches a year, one launch per month being for Rocket Lab, because they want about half the launches to be for Rocket Lab, specifically for getting their own constellation into space. And if you kind of think, okay, let's get 15 satellites or flatelites into space, and let's just give an approximation of, I don't know, $2 million per satellite an annual run rate. If you were to do that, that will get you $360 million just in that alone of revenue on an annual basis, just for Rocket Lab, before you even start talking about customers elsewhere. Now, that is going to give you a payback probably within a couple months, because I don't think that those satellites will cost you more than $500,000 to put in place. And what they've described for the satellites themselves is, once you put them into place, obviously, yes, you'll have that initial launch cost, of course, but once you reuse that stage 1, you've pretty much paid that stage 1 off. You've obviously paid the satellites off within a couple months themselves. You go on what's called a CapEx holiday, and for the next 5 to 7 years, you're pretty much just enjoying pretty much very low operating expenditure cash flow with very high gross margins that's going directly to the bottom line of the business. Whether that's for government customers, whether that's for an independent business, is yet kind of to be determined what specifically the needs for that will be. But if you think about it in that perspective, I mean, you're talking about very high margin, $350 million a year in revenue. And that's going to be reoccurring for 5, 6, 7 years. Now think about being able to do that for 5, 6, 7 potentially long time periods, and the cadence increasing beyond 24 times a year. That was that $350 million a year. That was 24 launches a year, half of which, so 12 being for Rocket Lab. Imagine if all 24, or say you get 48 launches per year, 24 of those now. So that's 700 some. So, I mean, you think about it, with the potential, I think that there's a very large opportunity for this to grow pretty expansively, and that's before you even start taking into account the other launches that are out there, the other space systems that are being produced for other people. So I think that people aren't necessarily giving it enough thought as to where we're at. And I was also giving some. Well, I'll stop there because there's a lot of different rabbit holes I can go down.
Yeah, Dave and Miss Iglesias, how do you, because you're both are very, very long-term holder. I know that you guys have a very, very low, like single-digit averages on Rocket Lab. So how do you feel like in light of the LC3 opening and Neutron coming online? Like, how is your thesis changing? And yeah, just give us your thoughts on this.
Dave, you want to go first?
Oh yeah, sure. I think the company's still executing very well. Obviously, I'd love to scrounge together a few more shares, but it's more difficult these days. Yeah, I don't know. What do you have, Miss Iglesias?
Yeah, I think I continue to contend that this is really just the beginning. I know a lot of our folks tend to focus on, DCA and how much what was the lowest that you were able to buy in, but I think it's still early. I think it really is just the beginning. We have a lot of catalysts on the horizon, and my investment thesis has always been, I will continue to buy as long as they continue to execute on their promises. Every time it dips more than 10%. And I will continue to buy until we become profitable. And, as we've heard Adam Spice say before, I know the goalpost was moved a little bit because of Neutron. I think initially in their initial investor presentations when they de-SPACed, they had anticipated that happening in 2025, but then obviously Neutron came about and now Flatellite and all the other plans that they have in order. So now we're looking at 2026 potentially, and that could move again. But as long as they continue to deliver, as long as they continue to keep us informed, and we've been in it long enough where I don't have very much doubt, if any at all, in the leadership. Obviously, I think they've always been very transparent, and I can't say that about many companies in terms of how forthcoming Peter Beck and his team has been. So I'm very appreciative of that, and I'll continue to add.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, I guess just one thing I will say is, it sounds pretty cool when I say my average cost is 411, which it is pretty cool. But had I the capital and I kept adding all the way through, I would be better off than even if my cost basis was $8 and or $10 or whatever. So yeah, it's not only about just keeping your cost basis as low as possible.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. I'm actually cost DCAing up now because I'm buying in the 38s the other day when it dipped down, and I'm okay with that. I think even for tax purposes, it's better to DCA up so that if and when I sell, the percentage of the taxes that they take away is going to be diminished. So you go into like a wealth management mindset, but yeah, still adding.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, I mean, just a quick word on that. I mean, even if you were to, let's just say you had 1,000 shares, or maybe you had 4 or 5,000 shares. You could do a quick exercise and say you have 4 or 5,000 shares at a $4 cost basis, and you don't want to ruin your beautiful cost basis. Well, another way that you could look at it is, well, you had, let's just make it easy, 5,000 shares at a $5 cost basis, right? $25,000. Well, you don't want to add here because adding another 1,000 shares at $45,000, that would mean that you have what is that? I'm not good with math. You guys know that $70,000 divided by, I guess now 6,000 shares. Well, what is that? Instead of having a beautiful $5 cost basis, you could say, well, now I have an $11.66 cost basis. Is that really so bad? I think anybody would have been happy to buy at $11.66. So I think to me, it's more about, and this is what people are always talking about, and granted, I'm in a fortunate position where I can continue to work and not necessarily focus on these things, but I have other investments as well. And I know I've talked to other people that this is their investment, right? And Rocket Lab is kind of their sole thing, and it's 80 to 90% of their money. So, I have some money that's kind of spread elsewhere. So take what I say with a grain of salt and focus on what works for you. But for me, I'm willing to take this 50%, down, because I honestly that the downside risk of this is as we continue to get further and further along is continuing to come up behind. I mean, I don't, after you get Neutron off the ground, I don't see the value of this company going below $20-$25 a share ever again. And so, and once you start actually getting a decent cadence and get ops cash positive within the next 2 to 3 years, I don't really foresee it going below $30 a share. So in that respect, I'm willing to take on that risk personally, to potentially wait and see what the potential long-term opportunity is for this, and then, like I said, that's what works for me. But I don't ever really plan on, taking and selling my shares unless, like Miss Iglesias said, I trust management 100%. Unless something were to happen where they can go in a completely different direction, and it doesn't make sense to me, or they go completely against the grain and change the culture of the company or something along those lines, I don't ever plan to sell. And the only money I ever plan to get back from the company is through, and people are going to be like, oh my God, through dividends or potential buybacks. And you're saying, oh my God, dividends. He wants dividends. It's like, no, I don't expect to have dividends for a very long time. That's how long I plan to hold this company, is until they start paying a dividend, which I don't foresee happening for 10 to 15 years from now, if at all, if maybe not even more. And so in that respect, I mean, people hear me talk about dividends. It's like, that's how long I think out in terms of holding some of this shit. I don't really think about, okay, I'm going to sell it next year or 2 years from now. I mean, when would you have sold Microsoft or Google, right? The answer is probably you shouldn't have if you did. And so
Exactly.
that's the way I look at it. And like I said, that's the way I'm looking at it. I have other investments elsewhere, but do what's right for you. And I met some people that were fortunate to have 80-90%. They diversified part of that and put it into more of a stable S&P 500 to kind of de-risk themselves, particularly away from Rocket Lab, because of that single asset risk, which I get wholly, right? I can't fault anybody for that. But I'm willing to take on that risk because a 50% downside for me doesn't really change that. And I think I trust that we're going to be able to get past that Neutron hurdle. And to me, once you get past that Neutron hurdle, 15 billion moat, I think is very easy. And then anything beyond that, I think is very plausible, and I think is definitely worth waiting the risk.
Yeah. I agree with that 100%. And guys, I'm so sorry. I'm going to cut you off real quick. My kids' practices ended earlier than expected, and they're outside standing in the heat while I finish up. But I just want to say thank you again for inviting me. I really, really appreciated that. And it was so great meeting all of you at Wallops. It was great being able to sit down and have lunch and just talk about Rocket Lab for hours, which is something that I can't do on a usual basis because my family thinks I'm Rocket Lab crazy. But yeah, that's okay. But thank you so much for inviting me, and I wish you all the best of luck with the rest of your episode.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Take care.
Talk to you soon.
Yeah, talk to you. Cool. So I just want to mention one thing. It's a conversation that I had with Matt back in the Airbnb when we were both, I think, super tired before my flight, and I was telling him that it's like I see that the guys who like make the best money on the stock market, they just go like back in the time, Tesla is a 1 trillion company, or they go like Rocket Lab is going to be a 200 billion company. But they don't like, because I told him like I kind of have the gut feeling that Rocket Lab is going to be a 200 billion company, but I'm with the data that I have currently and with my little Excel sheet, like I can't get the company there. And based on that Excel sheet, like it's kind of overvalued. Like we have run a little bit, to this point. And I told Matt that I feel that this is a weakness that I don't know how to reconcile. And then basically Matt told me that he understands this viewpoint, but if I think that, okay, the company is potentially going to be 200 billion, then he's like, now let's look at what do you think the worst case scenario for Rocket Lab is going to be, and then view your investment from that viewpoint, So we, like me and Matt actually like sat on the sofa and did this, like, okay, what if Neutron, like Electron maxes out at, like 25 per year, and then Neutron maxes out at 15 per year, and then the space infrastructure that Rocket Lab does is only going to be a few $100 million opportunity. And then Sir Peter Beck says like that's enough for me. I'm going to go and fly my helicopters and fighter jets, and I don't care anymore. And we still got the value of the company up to, I think it was like 50-60 million, which is like a 3x from here. And then he's like, so you have these two viewpoints, like you think it's going to be here, but the worst case scenario is here. So what do you think? And then suddenly I was like, okay, it's a buy. It's still a buy, And this conversation actually helped me a lot. Gave a lot of different viewpoints. So I just wanted to give it in case there is people here who are struggling with this, that they are here from the time when Rocket Lab was only a 2 billion, and we have grown very much very soon. So I hope it helps someone like it helped me.
Interesting way to think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, another way that I like to look at it is I like to look at it as a fun thing. I don't like to look at how many shares I own, but how much percentage of the company I own. And I think at the end of the day, I think sometimes people look at too much of the numbers on the screen and they forget that there's an underlying company with people working for them at the end of the day. And that was evident when we showed up at Launch Complex 3. We were there as not just fanboys that were reporting through YouTube and posting on Twitter and all that stuff, but we were there as owners. We paid our way to be there, right? And yes, they paid for the lunch and stuff like that. But I mean, we paid for the Airbnb, we paid for the flights to be there, and it was very fortunate, that we were even invited. But as owners, like, it was awesome to be able to be, have the opportunity to see what's going on, and I like to look at it that way. Like, I want to have and own as much of this company as possible. And as this progresses forward, like, what better way to be an owner of a rocket company that could potentially change the fabric of humanity? And so I don't know, maybe that's a dumb way to potentially look at it, but that's kind of what the way I like to look at it is. It's like every time you put more and more shares into it, you have a larger ownership stake of the company. Like, I just think that a lot of people they're too focused on, is it $40, is it $50 a share, and at the end of the day, it's like, just, I don't know. I like to look at it as I would just want to own the stock, and the underlying position in the company. I think yes, it might go $40, $50. That's the way it shows up every day, but at the end of the day, if the underlying company is performing, so will the stock in the long term. So
awesome. Okay, we go over to the next news, and so Scotto is writing that Rocket Lab's mystery haste appears to have a new date. It's no earlier than November 2025. Now, he's not here. I wanted to double. I think he means the one that was like vertical a few weeks before the LC3 ribbon cutting. And I don't understand how it can be delayed this much. Or do you guys think that he's referring to another haste mission?
No, I mean, he has Jake 4 even in there, so maybe they identified some issue with the I guess I shouldn't call it a spacecraft because it's suborbital, but whatever is going inside the fairing. Not sure.
Yeah, because I mean, that must suck, that it was like vertical on the pad waiting to launch, and then suddenly it's like, oh, back to the drawing board.
Yeah, but I don't think this could be like, clearly it's not weather or scheduling or anything like that. So yeah.
All right. Then we go to the next one. This is sort of related to Rocket Lab, but not really. So it looks like our beloved CFO, Adam Spice, he joins the board of directors of Proprio. This is basically a company that uses AI-powered surgical technology globally. So our Adam Spice is busy. He's all grown up now. Yeah.
How dare they take his time? He's ours.
Exactly. To be honest, I think being a board member, it's like, I'm sure you have to I don't know. I'm not qualified to speak about this, but I don't think it's so much time. It's a few meetings per year, and yeah.
There's different parts of a board. You can be more active or more passive part of the board. So I mean, you could be a chair. Chairs of the board obviously are a lot more active than independent directors that don't really have too much active day to day. So it really just depends on what committees and stuff you're on as well within a business.
Yeah, and sometimes I think, especially if you look at Rocket Lab's board, you know, when they have, I think her name is Nina Amarillo, like from the Space Force. I think that those people are given shares and a board seat to basically use their connections to recommend Rocket Lab to their colleagues back in. I mean, I don't know that, but that's kind of the idea that I got. I don't think she's there to advise Sir Peter Tech about how to design rockets, or you know, Adam Spice about how to make financial projections for the company.
No, I'm sure there is some. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, like, I'm sure there is some expertise on how to go about acquiring those valuable contracts and having contacts and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's more about expertise and experience about how a company should be trajectory, how the trajectory of the company and how the ship should be, you know, maneuvered and in what waters, right? And so if certain political environments show up, or certain sort of financial concerns show up, or you know, something happens within the company, you know, the hope is that you have some sort of experience on the board, so that the CEO has a sounding board to kind of look at. And at the end of the day, you need a CEO that also has to answer to somebody, right? And the board is there as well to not only be a sounding board, no pun intended there, but to also make sure that the company, you know, is kind of being held to the most in the highest esteem. So it's yeah.
Cool. Yeah, the last news that I have for today is that the Falcon 9 has done its 500th launch and landing of an orbital class rocket, which is nuts, especially because there is no other competitor rocket yet that is landing yet, and SpaceX has done 500 landings. That is some crazy experience that they have gotten there. Yeah, do you guys think that now that Starship managed to land without blowing up, so that means that it looks like they're going to solve the problem of the heat shield, and it is going to be a rapidly reusable ship? Do you think this is like heating up? Like, is it like bad for Rocket Lab that it's going good again for SpaceX, or is it neutral, or is it maybe even bullish because it's creating a lot more business for Rocket Lab?
I mean, I would say it was a great test flight, but there's still a lot of risk they have to retire and things they have to demonstrate. And, you know, there's still a long way to go on Starship. And glad to see, you know, the entire space industry expanding with SpaceX pushing things forward. But yeah, I'm not too worried right now about, you know, Rocket Lab in the looking at, you know, Falcon. It's been a great vehicle for a long time, but they've known that. They kind of designed Neutron thinking about Falcon 9's size and where they want to place themselves in the market and all those sorts of things.
Yeah,
the Artemis missions and going to Mars won't be successful without SpaceX. So you have to think that it's almost an enabler of future revenue for Rocket Lab. And when you think about space systems and what they want to do with interplanetary communication satellites, right? And what's going on with Escapade and what they're trialing with Escapade and hope to build on with Escapade, that, you know, if you don't have a Starship-like vehicle that would help reduce the cost overall of launch and being able to send a starship to and from, then eventually you won't get to Mars, and then that would be a stopping point, or at least a barrier for potentially going to Mars, which would then lower or lengthen the amount of time, or lower the eventual revenues for Rocket Lab. So it's almost like a symbiotic relationship. As much as we're competitors, there are, I think even in one of the interviews, you heard Peter call them friends over at SpaceX, not competitors over at SpaceX. And I think that that's a true, honest way to look at it. Is they're all looking to explore in space. And if you think about it, that they're as much collaborating on some of these things as they are competitors, because with the Psyche mission, NASA, Rocket Lab, and SpaceX collaborated to send that satellite to the asteroid near Jupiter, right? And so many of these things are going to be collaborating together on. You can't, yes, you need to have this friendly competitiveness, but you need that spark to be able to continue to drive innovation. And I think that that's been something that's been lacking for so long in the industry, which has caused, I think, so many delays. And I'm glad to see it kind of come back in the private sector as it has with obviously reusable and things of the like. So I think it's only going to help the industry, and I think the more that it happens, it unlocks the future for the future of Rocket Lab as well.
Yeah. I was very surprised in one of the I think in the latest interviews with Ashley Vance, that Ashley Vance did with Sir Peter Beck. Pete, we get to call him that now, said that Ashley Vance asked, you had this famous dinner with Elon Musk where you told him a little bit about your business, and then shortly after that, SpaceX started with the rideshare missions, and he said, "Do you regret that you told him this and you had that dinner?" And then Sir Peter Beck said that no, because the rideshare missions actually created a lot of business for Rocket Lab. And that was very counterintuitive for me. But if you think about it, there is people who don't make it on the rideshare. We even heard it from this lady who's selling the Electron and Neutron in Wallops. She also said that one of her prime customers is people who miss the SpaceX rideshare, and then they really need to get to space. And then there was the second group of people who needed a proof of concept so they can get onto the rideshare. So I think Starship is going to be, as Matt said, a symbiotic relationship. It's going to create a lot of new business in space, and I'm sure that a lot of new business is also going to be created for Rocket Lab. For example, if Starship launches a new commercial space station and that needs to be resupplied, then maybe it's going to be enough to resupply that with Neutron, but the space station has to go up with the Starship, or maybe it will be resupplied with Electron. Who knows? But I think that it's
I do still struggle getting my head around just how massive Starship is, and thinking, surely there's missions that it doesn't make sense to launch 100-ton vehicle if you're looking at whatever it is. You're talking about resupplying a commercial space station. You probably don't have that much, cargo and stuff like that. I don't know. It's just the scale of it is mind-boggling in some ways still.
Yeah, it's 10 neutrons, basically. 10 neutron payloads in one Starship.
Right. Yeah.
An order of magnitude bigger. Yeah.
Yeah, some thoughts as well. I mean, when you have some of these companies now with social scores and looking at their environmental footprints, that's also going to play a factor. So exactly what you stated, it's not only, I don't drive a bus to work, right? It's the same sort of concept, right? I drive an SUV, and even still, I don't need to drive an SUV. I should drive a car. But, it's the same sort of thought process, right? And I think a lot of people are like, oh, Starship's going to take over everything. It's well, you don't need to be launching the Varda stuff from Starship, so it kind of gets you to think a little bit.
Yeah.
I do need to get going, guys. Sorry.
worries.
No
Good
problem.
talking to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here, Dave.
All right. See you next time.
Yeah, see you next time. Ciao, ciao. Yeah, I mean, this was all the news I actually had this week, so we are kind of done. I don't know if the audience wants to ask us any questions, or if Matt wants to bring us up anything. I saw here Monov San wrote that he would really like to explore Sir Peter Beck's comments about crewed flights and interplanetary flights, and I think all of us here would like to explore that more. And when we mingled with him, he did say that they're really going for the Mars orbiter. Yeah, and he would like to fly humans, but I don't feel that there is anything concrete on that one yet.
Yeah, I think the best is yet to come, man. I really do, and I think I was looking at the numbers, I'm trying to decide if I want to share this or not. I might keep it close to my chest for now, but I was looking at the revenue, the gross profit growth, and I was looking at the operating expenditures and the split between R&D and what's SG&A OPEX, because they do give a lot of detail. And I was looking at obviously what the impact is for ops cash. And there's been, what I will say, 3 times in recent past, within the last 24 months, where Rocket Lab has almost been ops cash positive, and even with the spending of Neutron. So if you go back and look, I mean, there's been several times where we've been within $5 million of being ops cash positive, or break even at least. And that is inclusive of, maybe more or less spending on Neutron in certain quarters. But if you think about it, and this is what I'm trying to understand, is we've been increasing a lot in the R&D expense, and SG&A expense has been increasing, yes, as the company has grown, and as you continue to bolt on more companies, and as you continue to grow the footprint of the business, but not nearly to the extent of the R&D side. And obviously the R&D side is more so focused around Neutron. And so my thought process has kind of gone to, and this conversation goes back to what Adam has talked about in previous conference calls, is, okay, if you look at the run rate of OPEX and where it's kind of gone to, and once Neutron kind of gets to the pad, and that OPEX continues to, or not continues to, but that OPEX starts to wind down a little bit, and that R&D kind of goes more towards just normal OPEX, right? Just normal SG&A rather than R&D. And you don't have as much sort of testing that's going on, and you kind of go back to, I don't want to say business as usual, because there will always be underlying R&D that is happening, but less so over time. I'm just kind of curious, is that going to lead to $50 million a year of surplus, or less spending? And it doesn't take much. What I will say is I think people will be surprised at how quickly that gross profit is actually growing, and coupling that with the gross margins that are going in the right direction. I think people will be surprised that once we actually hit ops cash positive and we start to get the cadence up with Neutron, how quickly net income will actually show up. And I will state this here. I anticipate by the fourth quarter of 2027, the first quarter of 2028, Rocket Lab will be in the S&P 500. So, maybe that gives you some line of sight. And so the first half of 2026, I think, will be ops cash positive. I think that's not surprising. I think, so within the next 6 months or so, I anticipate we'll start to see that sort of come to fruition. And so that'll be fun. And then not too far after that, maybe the second half of 2026, first half of 2027, will actually be free cash flow positive. And I think when we're free cash flow positive, we'll actually start to see net income positive as well on a GAAP basis. So the ops cash piece is probably going to be on an adjusted basis. That's cash, cash in, cash out. But of course, it's depreciation and a lot of these things. So a lot of key catalysts that are going to be happening. And so over the next 24 to 36 months, I think it's going to be a lot of fun to see how the stock market reacts. And so it'll be interesting in that respect. There's going to be a lot of ups and downs. And I think there's going to be a lot of people being like, look at you guys getting ahead of yourselves. And I think it really just depends on where you are in your investment journey and really what you want out of what you're looking at with Rocket Lab. If you need your money today and, you don't want to take the risk, that's fine. Take your money and run. You're already up 600, 700%. I can't fault you for selling here and making your money. I would never tell you, I can't advise anybody, but if you need your money and, you're afraid that you're going to go down, I would say just take your money and run, put it in something safer. CDs are paying 4%, you can be happy with that. But, I think that there's a lot of longevity in this company that I don't think a lot of people are giving credit to. And there's a reason why SpaceX is going for a $300-400 billion market cap valuation. And I'm not saying that Rocket Lab is going to be going for that in the next year or two, but I do think that people see it with SpaceX. I think they're starting to see it with Rocket Lab. And I don't think that people have fully opened their eyes yet to what the potential for Rocket Lab will be. And once they start to unveil what I think the constellation is going to be doing and what revenues they'll start to generate and how much gross margin will be impacted and what's to come from that and what it's going to look like by 2030, 2032, 2033, I think that people will start to understand. But I think we have to get over the hump of Neutron, over probably the second, third, fourth, fifth, maybe Neutron launch. So I think obviously the next 6 to 12 months is going to be heavily focused on Neutron, getting the first commercial customer in the air for Neutron, getting the first landing. We did have that great conversation with Sean DeMillo. If you guys didn't watch Dave's video, I encourage you to listen to that towards the end. We had a great conversation with Sean DeMillo. The return on investment, I think Sir Peter Beck or Adam stated this as well. The return on investment boat won't be ready for launch number 1, which is still anticipated before the end of the year, but it will be ready for launch number 2. So there is potential that, if all things go well for launch number 1 and they do a soft landing, kind of like what was just recently done with SpaceX's Starship, that launch number 2, they might very well do what you're seeing on the screen right now. And that could happen within 6 to 12 months. And so we'll see. And then if that's the case, and that could very well be that is the first reusable rocket. Granted, it won't go to orbit, so it'll be different than what happened with Starship. So a little bit less complex than what's going on with Starship, but it'll be the first reusable vehicle from day one, right? Keep in mind the Falcon 9 was retrofitted to be reusable. So, I mean, still an impressive feat, right? 500 times. I mean, Jesus Christ. But, and I think some of them have been landed 25 times. But very interesting conversations. I don't think people fully, truly comprehend. They're designing for 10 times at a minimum, reusing stage 1. They're aiming for 20. They're really feeling like that they're really going to be able to get there. And I don't know. I just, after having those conversations, they feel very confident, and I'm very bullish on it.
Yeah. And I see a lot of people asking if the launch is still this year. And I did ask Sir Peter Beck in the Mingle, and he said what I got out of it. Like, he said that if it's needed, he's going to be here on Christmas evening, Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, and work all night to make it happen. But he did say that if any test fails or anything doesn't go as planned, it's a too tough target to make it. So I would say it's a 50-50. And I think that what I got from Sir Peter Beck is that they're very much trying to launch it this year. They're doing everything that they can, but it's a rocket program.
Yeah. From what it seems like, They always they have that caveat of if there's any showstoppers, it looks like it's a no-go, right? But we haven't really heard of any showstoppers as of yet, you know. And so from what it seems like, the government's on board, so it looks like they're removing all the red tape, you know, from a, you know, and not say that they're not doing their dotting their I's and crossing their T's, right? I just think that they're trying to make sure that if there's any holdup, that they're making the right phone calls to make sure that, you know, they're not. I don't think they're trying to push it through, you know, in a unsafe manner, right? That's not the feeling I got at all. It's more along the lines of, you know, it's not sitting on somebody's desk for 6 months, right? And that I think that's, you know, I think we're all used to that with dealing with the DMV and stuff like that. Sometimes the Department of Motor Vehicles, Vince. That's what DMV stands for. So yeah, I think, you know, from what I understand, based off other conversations, I feel like all those things are happening in parallel. Those things that you see on the Neutron readiness, I from what I've kind of felt and kind of heard, is that within the next couple of weeks, you should start seeing some of those things really start to move along. And I'm, you know, like Vince said, there's there's potential that, you know, it could get delayed, but at the end of the day, it seems very promising that things are going well and in the right direction.
Yeah. Cool. I think this was a great episode today. So I'm glad that you guys confirmed that I wasn't hallucinating and we did actually meet in person. It was fantastic. Matt, thank you for driving us around. And you know, you said Rocket Lab didn't pay for the trip. The truth is Matt paid for the trip and he hasn't told us yet how much we need to pay him. So it's only Matt's opinions that is 100% unbiased. We are, all the other guys are tainted because Matt has paid for everything, you know.
You guys paid for your flights. I didn't buy your flights.
Don't
be telling people I paid for your flight. There's other people that expect me to buy flights for other reasons. That you don't need to hear about that, Vince. But there's other stories. Yeah, people in the chat might know. Yeah, there's some other.
Is it Russian or Ukrainian girls?
I wish. Yeah, don't get me started. I'll tell you off stream.
My dad had an employee who was contacted by a Ukrainian beautiful girl, and she said he wants to marry him, and you know, blah blah. It was like for 1 month, and then she said, "Yeah, I need money for the plane ticket to come and marry you," and then he sent the money, and then she said, "Oh my God, I missed the plane. Can you send for another plane ticket?" And then I think he sent her like $30,000 or something before, like, yeah, I mean, it was an obvious scam from the beginning and everybody was telling him it's a scam, but I don't know what happened. So I hope it's not these girls that you meant that want you to buy plane tickets. Anyways, so thank you guys for this week. It was amazing. Thank you for all the support. We would not have been able to go without your guys' support. So thank you so much. And I'll see.
Much appreciated, all of you guys.
Yeah, I'll see you guys next week. May your sky stays blue and your stocks stay green.